What is up, guys? Frosty Austy here today with another Frosty Features. Today, we have our second member of our Liberty team that we're going to cover. So what this is, if you haven't been here before, is a comic book background on the tunes that you use in Marvel Strike Force, and I am your guide through the pages past. So, with that, let's get on to Falcon Joaquin. According to Scopely, what this is a blog post description of a character that Scopely provides us. This is essentially the lore that they base their character upon, which is often based on the comics, which is why I do these videos, right? So we're going to read this right now, and then we're going to rate it at the end of the feature. And the spoiler for this one is, look how dang short this one was. Pretty impressive how they're going to give the entire story of a character based on one sentence. So here we are. Falcon Joaquin. A resourceful Air Force officer, Joaquin Torres, was crucial in aiding Sam Wilson, and I didn't even realize until just now there's a typo in the blog post description. It says Sam Wilson. Good. I've read this 4 times. During the fight against the Flag Smashers anarchist group. After Sam became the new Captain America, Joaquin inherited the mantle of Falcon, taking up the iconic wings and advanced tech. So it's very short, and we got a typo, and it's obviously based in the MCU. Once again, we're giving the comic book background on the character, so there's going to be some vast differences right off the bat. So with that, let's dive in. This is Falcon Joaquin Torres from the comics. So name, obviously I've said it like 3 times, Joaquin Torres. First appearance is Captain America Sam Wilson number 3 in 2015. Some of you can get behind your keyboards. I understand that he's in Captain America Sam Wilson number 1 in 2015, but here's the thing. He is only in a picture. He is not in a, he does not cameo appearance unless you count a picture of him being a cameo appearance. He actually does his actual first full appearance in number 3. Usually I count cameos as a number 1, but this is literally a picture of him, and his character, other than this, it's a picture in a comic frame instead of like Wolverine in Incredible Hulk number 180 walks into frame. He's not even there. So I'm going to say it's Captain America Sam Wilson number 3. You can have your own beliefs. Powers and abilities. So, unlike the MCU counterpart, Joaquin Torres actually does have powers. So, he has the ability of flight, a healing factor, and enhanced sight. So, essentially, he has the powers of a bird. Similar to when we talked about Angel. He's essentially, if you take Warring Worthington III, Angel, not Archangel, but regular Angel, and fuse him with Hawkeye as far as the sight thing, and you've got Falcon Joaquin Torres. Aliases, I accidentally double-clicked. Aliases, no duel. So, being introduced in 2015, we're here 10 years later in the realm of comic books. That's not that long, so there really isn't much content that Joaquin Torres is in, and there's definitely more that I'm going to cover, I assume, especially with Captain America Brave New World coming out. He's probably going to be present a lot more moving forward, but as of this recording date, there isn't a whole bunch of stuff on Joaquin Torres. So, he is a no duel, but recently Sam Wilson has taken back up, not recently anymore, but in the last few years, Sam Wilson has taken back up the mantle of Falcon, so there's a bit where the champions are trying to rename Joaquin Torres, and I did not actually find any new name that he ends up going by. Sometimes, especially with these legacy heroes, they just go by the same name multiple times. We see a lot with Iron Fist, where we have multiple Iron Fists operating at the same time. So we can have multiple Falcons. Even multiple Captain Americas have happened before, so these are the things we have to consider. But currently, as of recording date, no duel. I expect him to have a rename in the near future. Affiliations. As far as I'm aware, we've got champions in the Red Room. Red Room is loose, and I didn't double check that. But ultimately, he works with Cap Sam. And through that, he works with the Underground and therefore the champions. And then I found the Red Room and didn't double check me. Let me know in the comments if that's just wrong, because I just realized I don't talk about the Red Room in here. But we're just gonna stick to our guns and say it's right. I don't know. Hit me up. Background. Joaquin Torres is a Mexican who immigrated to Sonoria, Arizona. I'm probably said that very wrong. All the things. Ultimately, he moves with his family to Arizona, and things happen, and that's where he grows up in Arizona. He is his family is really big about trying to help migrants get across the border. So he was known to leave food and medicine and stuff out in the middle of the deserts. So the people making the perilous journey, like his family did years ago, can do so with a little less, anguish. Who died? Can't be a superhero, supervillain without somebody dying. And in his situation's pretty complicated as far as all that stuff's concerned. Nobody actually dies, but Carl Malice dies, sort of, in Superior Carnage. The basis of this version of Falcon is an offshoot of the arc of Superior Carnage. In Marvel Strike Force, we have a Superior Carnage. Oh no, it's Absolute Carnage in Marvel Strike Force, so we don't have a Superior Carnage suit. But in this, Carl Malice is eaten by Carnage and is presumed dead. And actually what happens is he gets regurgitated and his DNA is fused with that of a symbiote. So he lives, but in order to do that, he sort of had to die. And for Joaquin Torres to become the Falcon, Carl Malice needs to be the symbiote hybrid thing. You could also argue everybody that was in Superior Carnage that died there. There was a few people also had to die for Falcon to kind of come about. But this is the story of the origin of Falcon. Joaquin Torres rides on the back of Superior Carnage. A vampiric mutate. So, unlike the MCU counterpart, Joaquin Torres is not a regular human being. So, we'll talk about it in a second, but ultimately he is experimented on by Carl Malice and is fused with the DNA of Red Wing, who is the hawk that follows Falcon around. Joaquin Torres is infused with his DNA. Red Wing is a hawk that at one point was bitten by Baron Blood. So with that, he's a hawk with some vampiric traits that affected his DNA. So when his DNA was mixed with Joaquin's, Red Wing and Joaquin, technically his powers spur from that of a vampire, even though he's not vampiric whatsoever. He really is a Birdman. He also has mutated eyes and stuff, unlike the MCU counterpart, which is why we have the helmet the way it is, because his eyes are super freaky. And he has actual wings coming off of his arms. So also, he has a sidekick link with Red Wing, just like Sam Wilson does. Sam Wilson has a sidekick linked to Red Wing, so he can telepathically talk to a bird, right? In the MCU, it is a drone. In the comics, it is a bird that he got power from the Cosmic Cube to have a sidekick link. Due to the DNA connection and this sort of residual cosmic plot hole, Joaquin also has a sidekick link, which sort of allows him and Captain Sam to communicate telepathically through that of Red Wing. So ultimately they have an ongoing Zoom call through a bird. So that's cool. But yeah, so that's the beginning of that. So relationships, once again, we don't have a whole bunch, or at least I haven't read a whole bunch, I guess, any extra. I don't know if it exists of Joaquin Torres. So the relationships, Mariana Torres is his grandmother, very important to his origin story. Esperanza Torres is his mother. And Luisa is his cousin. I can only find references to his mother and cousin. I don't actually know much about them, but Mariana plays directly in Joaquin's becoming the Falcon. So with that, notable events, we're going to talk about, these are the only two things I know about Joaquin Torres as far as the comics, right? Which is still a pretty hefty amount, but as far as the notable events go, as far as I'm aware, these are the two things that kind of come up. So, and it deals directly with Serpent Society, which does have a relation to Captain America: Brave New World. If you've seen a trailer, you should know that. So hopefully that wasn't a spoiler. Go watch it. All right, starting off with the origin of Joaquin Torres. As I stated before, Joaquin Torres migrated from Mexico to Arizona with his grandmother and mother. Grew up, and one of the big things, they were trying to support the people coming across the border. In that, the Serpent Society at the time was going out and kidnapping groups of people that were making this trek across the desert. They were kidnapping these people and taking them to Carl Malice, who would then do biological experiments upon them. So in this, one of the times where Joaquin goes out and he's trying to pass out food and medicine, he is captured by the Serpent Society and is taken back to Carl Malice. So in this, Mariana Torres knows that Joaquin has been kidnapped, and so she puts out like a video call to Captain America because she does not think that the Border Patrol would help her in the situation because of not only the nature of how, like, them being there's some prejudice involved, but also they are actively helping the people crossing the border, which could, tick off the Border Patrol in some kind of way. So she reaches out to Captain America, and Captain America decides to make it a point to go and find Joaquin. So within this, he goes to, Captain America therefore then tracks down Serpent Society and ends up getting to the building in which Joaquin is at, and Captain America, Sam Wilson, and Red Wing are captured because, they roll together. And in being captured, Dr. Malice is like, hey, I'm going to do some experiments on these fools. So he takes Red Wing and he takes him to Joaquin Torres and starts working on fusing their DNA. And he fuses the DNA of Captain Sam with that of a wolf, creating Cap Wolf. Because why wouldn't you make one of your potentially greatest enemies fuse with a really strong and cool creature? It reads better, but as an enemy, as a villain, I don't see this as a good move. So we make Cap Wolf. So in this, because of his being captured, what have you, he was followed and tracked down by Misty Knight. So Misty Knight ends up breaking into the Serpent Society headquarters and breaks out Captain America. And together, Misty Knight and Captain America are able to take down Malice. So Malice, once again, symbiote style, right? Very similar to Carnage. They're able to take him out, and in doing so, Red Wing has a little, it's essentially like it's a bird backpack, because comics. And in this bird backpack, we have a sonic blaster, and symbiotes aren't super keen on the sonic stuff. So in taking out Dr. Malice, they use Red Wing's sonic blaster and are able to end him. And in that, they're trying to release everyone. And this is how they find Joaquin Torres, who has his DNA mixed in with Red Wing's. And what the big thing they found out after they take Joaquin, they take Cap Sam to Night Nurse, to Claire, and they're like, yo, like, how do we reverse these things, whatever. And she's like, good news and bad news, these are temporary afflictions. All of these biological experiments that Malice has turned on, they're going to wear off. That's how Cap Sam returns back to normal. But with Joaquin, part of the mutation that he got due to the vampiric nature of Red Wing's DNA was a healing factor. So every time his body is trying to constantly revert back to, as his body's trying to revert to human form, his healing factor is preventing it from happening. So out of all the experiments that Dr. Malice performed, Joaquin is the only one that is stuck in this form. This is how he meets Captain America. And this is where he is left off as his origin, because he doesn't actually become Falcon in truth until after the events of this next situation. So what we're going to talk about here is Serpent Solutions. So Serpent Solutions is when the Serpent Society is taken over by Viper, and Viper, as with most big things, big groups, conglomerates, what have you, they get a new president, and the president's like, we need a rename so people don't associate things with other things, and we're gonna make changes. So instead of Serpent Society, they do a nice little rename to Serpent Solutions because it sounds so different or whatever. So, and essentially what they're doing now is they're running as mercenaries. They're still running as mercenaries, really not that different. They're running as mercenaries and making money this way and operating out of a building in Wall Street. So from this, Captain America had his previous Captain Wolf situation, so he's trying to get information on Serpent Solutions, and therefore sets up a meeting with one Diamondback to ask some questions and try to use Diamondback as a spy. But lo and behold, upon meeting Diamondback betrays Captain America, because there not only is Diamondback there, but also Puff Adder, Black Racer, and Cottonmouth all appear out of nowhere, and they are able to take down Captain America by stabbing him with a poison dagger, which knocks him out and paralyzes him, and they take him to the Wall Street situation. This happening, Red Wing, so with the sidekick link, Red Wing is automatically able to know that, hey, Cap was kidnapped. We need to do something about it. And because Red Wing knows, therefore Joaquin Torres knows. So Joaquin, he was in like essentially he was like restrained in a hospital bed, and they were trying to cure him. He breaks out of his constraints and him and Red Wing fly to go save Cap Sam. So at all this time, as time's passing, they're trying to get information from Cap Sam, and another one of the Serpent Solutions groups, ASP, has been constantly using they have a venom shock to keep Captain America paralyzed, and Viper ends up getting annoyed and tired of not being able to get anything from Cap Sam, so she grabs him and throws him out of the window. And because how timing works in comics, this is when Joaquin Torres happens to be flying by, so he jumps in and catches Cap Sam and makes his landing a lot more less deathable. So in saving Captain Sam, the Serpent Society Super Solutions all appear. So they're fighting all these people with different snake names because they wanted to be as subtle as possible. And it is just Cap Sam and Joaquin Torres, who once again is 17 years old. He is just a kid. He does not know how to fight, but using Red Wing, Captain Sam is communicating martial arts style ideas and ways to fight people to Joaquin, and they are able to work in sync very well. They are not, however, able to take out Serpent Solutions by themselves, but hold their own as a regular human being, Captain America, and a slightly mutated human being, Joaquin Torres. They are fighting off Serpent Solutions on their own, holding their own ground, and then out of nowhere, D-Man, Demolition Man, shows up with Misty Knight, lending extra fists to the fight. They are starting to turn the tide, and Diamondback decides to swap allegiances and also hops on the side of good, and they are able to fight off and defeat Viper's Serpent Solutions. And from here, because also Joaquin Torres is literally a Falcon, he ends up becoming Captain America's Falcon. It obviously works a lot better even than Captain America, Steve Rogers, and Sam Wilson Falcon because of the sidekick link. They can work so well together. It's almost as if he was made to be his partner, right? It's funny how writing works. So those are the two notable events. So those are the major things that have happened. Like I said, there is some association with Joaquin Torres with Underground and Champions. I haven't read it exactly. I just know of it by just reading through some forums. And I know that one of the cool things about him working in the Champions means he works with Patriot, who is also on the Liberty team, and we'll be talking about in the next Frosty features, so that's very exciting. So with that, we're going to move on to power level. So in Marvel Strike Force, they don't care about power level, but here on Frosty features, we do. Now, the way that this works, if you are a multiversal threat, it means you are a threat to all of reality, not just your reality, but all the realities together. You can topple the multiverse at your whim. Universal means you can end your reality, perhaps then hop on over to another reality and end that one. Cosmic means you are a threat on the small and on a planetary scale, being able to take out things like large planetary bodies all the way up to solar systems and galaxies with enough time. Nuclear means that you have power equivalent to that of a nuclear bomb, leveling things like small cities or a planetary body, once again with enough time and effort. Super Soldier means that you are beyond all human capabilities, taking out things like brick walls or leveling something like a city block on the high end. City means that you are equivalent to a human being that is trained to the absolute and utter peak of human ability, very similar to an Olympic athlete. In Marvel, we find a lot of our secret agents, spies, etc. at this level. And then we have Greg. Greg is the undead Asgardian that is spawned by Hela in Marvel Strike Force, and without an undying team to back him up or anything else, Greg is very weak and very insignificant, and in the realm of superheroes, that's pretty fair. So, due to undead Asgardian physiology, just because I like to make the argument, Greg is equal to that of a regular human being. So in the event that I am at a closeout sale of we go back in time and it's Borders, they're closing, I'm perusing, I'm looking to grab all the manga that they may or may not have had. I never actually went to a Borders, and we both go to the final issue of Death Note, and we both reach out for it, and I look at him and I'm like, I'll give you a Death Note if you try to take this manga, and he looks at me and goes, because he's Greg and dead. Therefore, we get into a fight in this Borders over the final issue of Death Note, and due to my already large tote full of manga, I beat Greg to death. So, I, Frosty Austin, as a regular human being, could theoretically beat Greg, no matter what people in the comments say. So, in the case of Joaquin Torres, what we have in the MCU version, we definitely have a regular human being who is highly trained to the degree of which we do not actually know, right? We know he's in the military, but we do not know how highly trained he necessarily is. So debatably city as far as the MCU is concerned. In the event that we're talking about the comics, and that's what we're doing here on Frosty Features, we have the ability of flight, we have the ability, a healing factor, and we have enhanced eyesight, which this is a person who could theoretically use guns. That's what we see in the MCU. Honestly, a good fusion of these would be the best kind of character. But with that, I'm going to make the argument that we have Joaquin Torres in the super soldier role. He is going to be able to be, from flight alone, he's going to be able to do things that people at the city level just aren't able to pull off, especially being able to spot things from far distances. He's going to be more useful than a regular human being in most ways. So that's where we're going to say Falcon Joaquin Torres is as far as power level. And then according to Scopely, once again, this description is definitely based on the MCU version of the character. All of the MCU versions are based off of the Marvel 616 versions, loosely, one way or the other. It's still relevant. It's still things to keep in mind. The big thing here is this is one sentence long and there's a dang typo in it, which I didn't even recognize until I started doing this feature, right? So with that, they very much didn't even try. Even as far as describing the MCU version of Joaquin Torres, he has been in multiple outings in the MCU by this point. He is more than just the guy that helps out Captain America, Sam Wilson, right? And what we got was one poorly worded sentence, because I wanted to say it was twisted because, or comic cop out because they used the MCU version, and it really was. But even in describing the MCU version, they didn't try. Do better, Scopely. We expect more out of you. But there it is. That's where we're at. That's Frosty Features Falcon Joaquin Torres. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Please let me know your favorite Falcon Joaquin Torres or just Sam Wilson moments below in the comments. I would love to hear it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe this here on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything but a couple of clicks. And as a reminder, I stream at the link above on Twitch and here on YouTube, Sundays, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, where we do Frosty Features live. I hope that you all enjoyed this. I hope that you all have a fantastic, fantastic weekend. Most importantly, y'all, stay cool.